Hey, I just want to tell you guys about my gardening fiasco. I planted a lot of my garden in the house beforehand, and as these plants got bigger and needed bigger containers, more space, I started running out of room. I've been eyeing for a while one of those like shelf greenhouses. So it's really just a shelf with plastic outside. And I finally bit the bullet and bought one because my boyfriend was like, when are we taking all these plants outside? Like, the whole house is just plants. It's a disaster. So I finally bought one, sucked it up and bought one. Super cheap on Amazon. I got a 5-shelf one because that's how many shelves, a minimum, that I need. So it came in, I set it up. Like, it's super cheap, super easy. You just put the poles in the holes and stack everything up, put the plastic on top. So I set it up, I put everything in there, and during the day it can be open. At night at this point in time it was too cold, and like you had to close the plastic, the zippers, and all that jazz. And so like I put it out, set it up, put the plants in there, and I hadn't even had the damn thing for 24 hours. And it got pretty windy outside. And I mean, the shelves they sit on top of a couple bars. And my top shelf fell out. And so a whole bunch of my plants hit the ground. My tomatoes, a bunch of my cucumbers, some of my squashes. A lot of them broke. I went and got zip ties, and I tied the shelves to the poles so that they couldn't fall off again. A couple hours later, I go outside, and the whole shelf had fallen over. Like, not just the top shelf fell out, the whole unit had tipped over. So I lost a good chunk of my squash. I lost all of my tomatoes. A couple of my cucumbers died. Everything's mixed up. I don't know what is what. Like, I had a couple kinds of cucumber, and I had winter squash, acorn squash, and pumpkins, and I had summer squash. So I had patty pan squash and zucchini, which is a squash. And honestly, I cannot tell you, besides, these are cucumbers, these are something else at this point. A lot of it has died, so I don't know. I honestly don't know what I'm left with. So it's going to be a surprise harvest at some point. So, yeah, I don't know what I have now. So as of May 28th, 29th, somewhere in there, I managed to get most of my garden in. Not all of it, because all my tomatoes died. So I have had to go buy tomatoes. But as of when I'm recording this, I can't get out there to put them in. It is too smoky to go outside. So the smoke finally cleared enough that I could get into my garden. So I finished planting, and I'll give you a little tour. This is my strawberry rhubarb patch. The rhubarb desperately needs to get harvested. My store-bought tomatoes, because I killed all mine. Green onions in this first row. The second row was supposed to be lettuce, but nothing has come up at all, so I'm going to have to reseed that. I have 2 kinds of kale coming up. They're nice little seedlings. I have beans, and I have pepper plants, which are still really small. My Saskatoons are going to give me berries. I have some potatoes coming up in my little bag. This bed is my assorted cucumber and squash bed, and everything's mixed up. I don't know what's going where. This is my leeks. I have two kinds of carrots coming up. One's a purple carrot and one's your standard orange carrot. I have two kinds of beets coming up. I got your standard red beets and your golden beets. And then I have celery and garlic and onion from, well, the garlic and onion is from Kitchen Scraps. In my last bed here, I have peas. So what you can see here is what's the first planting. The second planting is done. It just hasn't sprouted yet. My patty pan squash and my zucchini haven't sprouted at all yet, so I don't know if that'll come up either. Out front, I got lots of raspberry plants, and they're doing very well. And then I planted a bunch of pansies in my little planter by the door because it gets next to no sun, so a shade plant will do good there. And no tour of the garden is complete without pictures of my indoor gardens. So this is my tomato plant. It is not as pretty as advertising tells you it'll be, but I'm getting tomatoes and I'm eating them and they're lovely. And then my herb garden, which is also a mess and in desperate need of being harvested.